In this video, we will analyze what is happening with the French colonies, or how is the new form of French colonialism. As you know, the two main colonialist countries in Europe were England and France. But France has still some remainings of the old colonialism era. For example, France has still a strong presence in Africa, and France is still controlling the economy of several African countries. At the same way, there are many French territories all around the world that represent what is called French overseas territory. They are small island or small piece of land like the French Guiana in the America, where these lands were land that had been claimed few centuries ago from France. In the particular case today we will talk about of New Caledonia. Actually, New Caledonia had been claimed, I believe, in 1853. And since then, these French overseas territories are considered part of the same France. But at the opposite, we should consider what the people, the original people, the indigenous people of this territory, and how they consider themselves and what they think about France and the French domination. So, France has still a very important control all throughout Africa. Last year, there has been a very important coup d'etat in Niger, and it seems that thanks to this coup d'etat, the French were kicked off Niger. And in other countries in Africa, the French people have been kicked off. But despite what happened, there are still many places throughout Africa with a strong, as I said at the beginning, French presence. Now, today we will analyze some riots that occur in New Caledonia, which is part of the French overseas territory. In order to understand what is happening in New Caledonia, we have to analyze different facts. We let the last one, the role of Mr. Emmanuel Macron, the President of France, and how he see himself and how he play himself, his power throughout Europe and throughout the world. But this will be the last point because it's very important to understand the role of Mr. Macron in all of this. But what happened in France? They, in an unclear way, we can say also, we can use also the French government recently in a dirty way, we can say, was trying to change some agreement that had reached with Kanak people, that are the indigenous of French New Caledonia. So, the agreement was that in order to do not change the electoral population universe, the equilibrium of the electoral universe, which means the people that could vote, only French people that had been for more than 10 years in the island up to 1998 have the right to vote. So, what they were trying to do in France was to revert this agreement in order to allow new French people to vote. By having new French people to vote in New Caledonia, the Kanak people will become a minority and they wouldn't be able to change the New Caledonia policy, and most importantly, they won't be able to claim independence from France. That's why the riots have started, the protest has started. The protest is led, as I said, by the Kanak people, that are the indigenous people. They have a population of around 120,000 people. Meanwhile, the total Caledonian population is around 260,000 people. New Caledonia is a small island, it's 18,000 square kilometers, so it's a small place. But it's quite important because it has some economic and some natural resources characteristic that interest quite a lot France. That's why the French people, the French government, wouldn't let easily New Caledonia to get free from the French control. That's the main point. So, when Kanak people understood that in France they were trying to change the rules in order to take out power from them, they started to protest. Basically, this is what happened. Immediately, President Macron decided to send 1,000 armed policemen in New Caledonia, which is, unfortunately, in my opinion, something similar of what happened in Shark Island. So it's very important to understand that the move of Mr. Macron is not something completely, let's say, respectful of native people. In the first place, I believe that French government shouldn't be in New Caledonia, because New Caledonia has its own people and they want to get free from France. They tried 2 times, actually 3 times. The last one failed because it was during the COVID. So, and probably if a new referendum would be allowed, the idea of getting free from France will prevail. That's why in France they try to change the rules by changing the constitution in order to allow to more French people to vote in New Caledonia. In that way, as you can see by the number, you have from one side 120,000 Kanak people, from the other side in total you have 260,000 people, which means that the difference is mainly French people. So in that way it would be impossible for Kanak people to get free from France. That's very easy. So the move that was decided in Paris was how to take out of control the island from the local people that was living there. The agreement that, let's say, couldn't change the electoral universe was taken, if I'm not wrong, after another riots, like a little civil war in the middle of the 80s. And after all these events, there was a peace agreement that arrived to this agreement of not allow new French people the right to vote in New Caledonia. So, what represents this situation in my point of view? Well, several things. The first one, when we talk about colonialism and colonization, usually we think about things that occurred 100 years ago, last centuries. In fact, when we talk about colonization, in reality, the world is still under the control of colonizer. In the particular case, the French one, in the case of New Caledonia. This is the first aspect that it's very important to be understood. Then we have to understand also the role of Mr. Macron. Mr. Macron, as I explained in other video, it is not really loved in his country. Actually, I've seen a recent poll where Marine Le Pen will be able to gain as much as the double of votes that Mr. Macron will be able to leverage. So, Mr. Macron arrived at the presidency of France because all parties, from the extreme left to the conservative, joined together against Marine Le Pen. That was the politician, and that is the politician at the moment with the highest polls, with the highest, most liked in France. So, this is another important factor, and I believe it will be crucial because Macron will use and will leverage everything possible in order to gain more vote. Maybe taking a strong action against the Kanak people, the native from New Caledonia, would be a way in order to get more vote and maybe to have more representatives of his party in the coming European elections. This is the other factor that we have to take in consideration. And then we have a third factor that is very, very important in order to understand the New Caledonia situation. The third factor is New Caledonia has a lot of mines of nickel. And actually, I believe that nickel, it is used in order to make battery. So the world is going toward a massive electrification. So, in my opinion, this mineral will be pretty much required, or quite a bit required, in the following years. That's why I believe that the French government wouldn't let go the New Caledonia alone, because of economical interest. Unfortunately, the ones that are losing are always the native, and we have seen the stories all throughout America, from North America to South America, with the genocide of native people, where unfortunately native people are the ones that will suffer this French domination. Why? Well, from an economical point of view, it's very easy to understand. The best jobs are obtained by French people in New Caledonia, and not by native. So, the native people are put aside when there are some important jobs or better paid jobs in favor of French people. That's why native wants to get free from France. They want to get free from colonization. This is the situation, and this is what is happening in New Caledonia. And there is also a final consideration. Europe, with France on the head, heading the action as Europe, is strongly supporting Ukraine against Russia, or they are fighting together with Ukraine in order to prevent the Russian invasion. So from one side in Europe they have a nice speech about how countries and people should be protected from other people that are invading the countries, but at the same time, in my opinion, there is a little bit of hypocrisy, because what is happening in New Caledonia and in other French territory is an invasion from an European country to area where there are native people, and probably they have the right to be let alone and not to be dominated by a new form of colonization. At the end of the day, what we have nowadays in New Caledonia is a new form of colonization. But I have a question for you. What do you think? The French government will let the New Caledonia alone, or will let to New Caledonia finally the possibility to get the independence from France, or this, let's say, domination, this colonial domination will go on in the future? What is your impression? But first of all, remember to give me your like, subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends, turn on the ringing bell, and I'm looking forward to have you in my next presentation.